Great. Great.
Good evening. Would you stand with me for the invocation and pledge of allegiance? Troy, if you would, please.
Pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we ask your blessing this evening on this meeting and on the work that's being done, that we would seek you first. Everything that's accomplished here this evening would be acceptable in your eye, would honor you, and would be done for your glory. We ask your blessings on everyone present, those who have been called to lead, those who are here to represent the interests of others, and those who are here to serve and protect our community. But we just ask a special blessing this evening on our leaders locally and nationally, and those in the world, throughout the world that are involved in the issues going on in Ukraine and Russia. Lord, we just pray that they would seek you and would follow your guidance. Now remind us all, Lord, that we're to be a reflection of you, that we can be a light in the darkness. We just pray for your wisdom and courage to know and to do what is right. Let us serve in humility and be that reflection. For we trust you and we do all things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Mr. Reisinger, please.
Would everybody please join me in the pledge? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There's no one.
Thank you.
I'd like to call to order the special session of the Vienna City Council for March the 3rd, 2022. Let the record reflect that I've taken roll that all members of council, with the exception of Mr. Leach, are present this evening, and having a quorum, we will proceed. We have no one that signed up for public forum this evening, so we'll go right to the report of the minutes. The minutes from the February the 24th, 2022 regular council meeting have been printed, posted, and circulated. Are there any corrections to the minutes? If not, the minutes will stand approved as posted. You'll have to excuse me for a second. I have a message here from Mr. Leach. Mr. Leach will not be able to join us this evening. He is out of town for a federal district court hearing. So we will proceed without Jim. So we have no unfinished business this evening. Moving into new business, that would be our discussion on the budget. I hope that you all received the updates from the sheets that have the various items that were requested and their impact on the budget. As you all are aware, in the budget that you should have received, the budget is out of balance. The budget is out of balance by $942,858. And so this evening, the discussion that we need to have is some of the variables that are going to have an impact on this number. Does everyone have the 3 sheets with the gray lines across them? If you don't, I have extras right here. That's all right, Tom. Here, we'll get you a new set. Okay.
Just sideways.
Oh.
Just look at mine sideways.
Well, have a new set.
You know how to rotate it?
Have a new set.
Can you rotate? Oh, I guess it will. Oh, there we go. Never mind. I got it. Anybody else need it?
I can't get mine. I can't get it.
Do you want me to go up to the podium and put it on the thing, or do we just want to talk about it? You all have it in front of you?
Yeah.
We're good? All right, so let's just start right down then. On the first page, the new hires and the wage change. If you look at the calculations that are there under all departments, if you take the across the board raise of $1, It actually works out to be a 65-cent increase because the 35 cents longevity is already built into the numbers. And so when you look at the first set of numbers, that is a 65-cent increase over what is already in the budget. If you go down to the second number, which would be the $2 across the board raise, that adds $1.65 to the totals because the 35 cents is already in there. I'm sorry that I don't have a better explanation for the calculations and how it actually goes in. I had a conversation last night with Amy, and it's quite involved when you look at the spreadsheets and all the calculations because not everyone gets the same schedule. I mean, there's a lot of variables that go into this, which she has already built into her program that add this. So when she comes back, and she apologized for not being here this evening, but she is out of town. She got called out of town unexpectedly and will not be back until next week. So I'm sure that when she comes back, that if there's still questions about that, we can get a more detailed explanation. But bottom line is, if you add the $186,611 in, that is the total cost when you add all of the taxes, the disability, and the pension into that $1 or $2 pay raise. Those are where those come in at. So that number right there is part of the factor that we're out of balance because we're adding that amount of money into the balance itself.
Can I ask, why do we do, because it's essentially, it's not a dollar pay raise, it's a 65-cent pay raise. Why don't we do the 35-cent longevity and then add $1 on top of that? Why is that not what we do?
It depends on how it's with council's wish. The 35 cents is a given. It's
Right.
by ordinance, okay? And so if you want to see them get a $1 total raise, then it's 35 that's there plus 65. If you want to make it $1 on top of the longevity, that's council's choice.
Okay.
I believe that we did that last year because the 35 is already there. All right. And so Amy does nothing but the calculations, whatever the numbers are that you all want to hit is where the calculation comes in because she simply changes the multiplier. So it can be done anyway.
And so you're saying that the numbers that are here, the $1 and the $2, so the $1 is correct. You're saying that the $2 for 98, 265, 34, that is correct? They're in column 10?
Yes. I mean, yes.
And we would be picking one or the other, right? I mean, if we, because the 186, we wouldn't,
That's both of them added together, so that's not right. And my mic's not on there.
Kim, if it's not on, I'm sorry, I can't help you.
Where's the wireless then? It was working when we sat down for the hit with the leg.
Did it come up?
It plugs in right up through the bottom.
Yeah, if people.
You're welcome to move up. You're welcome to move up and sit on this side of Mr. Azinger if you like.
No, I think we got, I think it's working.
It's,
Is it intermittent?
I have no idea.
there we go.
We'll see if it remains working.
If it doesn't, just move.
Thank you.
Or I'll give you the handheld mic if you'd like to stay where you're at.
Yeah, give me the handout. Thank you.
Hold the bottom until the green light comes on.
Okay. Oh. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, great. I just wanted to say that the 186,611 is the adding together a dollar raise and a $2 raise. So that number right away is not the right number. Can you see what I'm saying?
Well, Mr. Azinger pointed out the other day that, the numbers have to be wrong because of if it's $1 and it's, $100, then $2 ought to be $200.
Exactly.
Well, I can't give you a better explanation than that because I don't have Amy's spreadsheets. And honestly, I don't know. There's a formula that she goes through on that. So until she comes back, I don't have an answer for you.
So basically, we just need to kind of forget that for now because we don't have an answer and we don't know if it's accurate.
We have no idea. Okay. And I apologize because I just didn't understand her explanation to me. But she has a formula that is built in. And when she explained it to me, she thought the numbers were right because instead of being $2, it's $1.65 plus the 35, which is already built into the budget. So there is an issue with that explanation. but she'll have to be the one to give it to us, okay? It's not as simple as saying, okay, we have 70 employees, we want to give them a $2 raise, and there's 2,080 hours in a year. It doesn't work that way because not everybody is at the same schedules and all that, so it's difficult to calculate that. But
So
she
let
she
me
has
ask a
formula.
question then about that. I can appreciate that she's not here to answer our questions. But this is for the impact on the general fund budget, and aren't a lot of employees get paid out of the enterprise funds, water and sewer?
That's the other factor.
Yeah,
Yes,
okay. Because that's going to change it significantly.
correct. Yes, sir, Mr. Easinger.
Wouldn't it be either 88,000 or 98,000, but not both?
Exactly.
But Kim was right. This is the general fund, okay? And so part of the employees that are not in this calculation get paid out of the enterprise fund. But you're correct, Tom. One's for 65 cents. And see, that's what didn't make sense to me. If the one on the top is 65 cents and then you go to the next one and it's $1.65, then, I would assume that number's higher. But I don't want to speak for Amy because she'll make me look bad when she comes back because it'll be something really simple. And she can, she'll explain to you how she calculates it. Okay? All right? So anyway, back to your question. Well, at some point, we're going to need to make a firm decision about what pay raise is going to be given. 35 cents is a mandatory number. Anything on top of that is council's decision. All right? So, when we go on down the list, data processing.
Could I make just one real comment about the
Yes, sir.
pay raise? Just so everyone is aware, keeping in mind the passage of the personnel costs as far as the budget and the proposed budget for the fiscal year does not grant approval for the raises. The actual raises would have to be voted on down the road. Is that not correct?
I'm sorry, Roger, say that again.
When it would come time to give the raises, well, I guess I'm thinking of the department heads, so. in
Yes,
that
if council decides that they want all the employees to have a $2 pay raise, then that number will be calculated in the budget,
Right,
and then it will be part of the budget, so that
Right.
would be it. All right?
okay.
Yeah, and I mean, but that number has not been determined yet,
Okay.
okay?
I guess I was thinking there was some requests here on pay raises on the,
Well, let me go back to that, okay? That's where I'm going with the next one on this thing, okay? All of the next ones for data personnel, and parks, those were requested by the department head, okay? Those are not things that council put forth or any of that. So those numbers, they don't really have a bearing on it as far as I'm concerned, all right? They are in the calculation of why it's out of balance, but, you all have to make up your minds as to whether you think that those are good numbers or not. And at some point, we'll have a discussion about that. All right? But that is nothing that the city put in. This was simply off the request sheets when the department heads presented their budgets. All right?
okay.
Mayor, I have a
Kim?
question about that. I think in the past, and I think this is kind of what maybe Roger's getting to, that I think this was maybe 3 budgets ago. There were department head raises requests, just like there are this time. And at the time, council tabled it, brought it back later off the table, and then dealt with those individually. Some folks got raises at that time, and some folks didn't. I think, is that what you were talking
Yes,
about?
yes,
So I guess my question is about process. If we, we know we have to do the 35 cents, or anything above that we do globally affects all the full-time employees, including the department heads. But we could choose or not, I guess, to give those department heads additional raises by
Yes.
having a resolution, a motion, and so on and so forth.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
yes, and that was my point. Those would have to be voted on separately, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
If you want to bring up something that's not as a normal course of business, yes. Okay?
Okay, thank
All
you.
right? But take into consideration of this, no matter what happens, it all has to be done before the budget is balanced, because if you don't, then you have to go back in the budget and take that dollar amount out to make it balance. All right? You can change any number that you want, understanding that whatever you add has to come off somewhere to make it balance again. Okay? All right? So we'll go to the next sheet then. The item number 410 is the FLAP grant, the match for the Spencer's Landing development. And it's $100,000, which is the same amount that was in there last year. Now, that money can be taken back out. It's simply put in there because once the state and the federal government give us the money to do the kayak launch, we have to do our match for that. But we can take that out. You can take it back. You can pull it out of capital reserve. You can do several things with it. And the reason why it's in there is simply because we know that if things work out the way they're supposed to, we're going to need to have the match. All right? But we can take it out. If council would decide that they would rather pay for that, our match for the kayak launch out of capital reserve, then you can do that perfectly well. All right?
I have a question before we move on to the next slide item. I had requested the comprehensive plan of $30,000 was put in there just as a placeholder. Has that been removed in the consideration?
I don't see it in here, Kim. Where would you have wanted that put under? Just
It was in 410. That's where it was.
okay. And I can't tell you that. If you want it put back in there, we can add it now.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Say that one more time. It was the 25? No.
It's $30,000 for the consideration of a comprehensive plan.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So when Amy adjusts these numbers, because you're going to see here in a few minutes, we've got several adjustments to make, we'll put that back in there, okay?
Thank you.
So we go to data processing, and you can see the request there for the desktop replacements for the computers throughout the city, a request for a drone for the police department and fire department and the city and $40,000, and camera upgrades for $15,000. When you go to the police department, there was a request for three cruisers. Amy has removed the actual cost of the vehicles and replaced that number with the financed amount. So that reduced the out of budget amount by $107,637 because we don't have to pay for the police cruisers up front. We simply finance them, and then you take the payments out over the life of the budget. The next item was the training range we have for our police officers. It's an upgrade, $22,995. The police department, they have a request in there for the front ramp of the fire station on 28th Street for $80,000 and a replacement of supply hoses and chairs in the training room for $18,500. The hoses themselves, that's pretty much a mandatory item right there because of the life expectancy on those hoses. Every so many years, they are required to replace them, and this is one of those years when they are due to be replaced. The chairs in the training room have been in there for, Roger, how many years? 30?
Forever.
Yeah, I mean, forever. But anyway, they're...
And they were secondhand when we got
Yeah, I
them.
mean, but anyway, that's the request for that. When you go down to the item 540, which is the Parks Department, there's a replacement for the McDonough restroom, Christmas lights replacement for $25,000, replacing the 26-foot Christmas tree at Neal School, various playground pieces, and there is a separate list of that. The exercise pieces for the middle school and senior adult, $30,000. Ball fields, playground pieces for younger kids, $25,000. Other playground pieces for pre-K and up, $10,000. Paving the community building parking lot is $115,000. Paving the access road and garage parking lot is $65,000. Sealing the walkways around McDonough and the rec building at Jackson Middle School is $45,000. The concrete entryway to the restrooms in Jackson Park is $18,000. Concrete work and walkway to the BMX restrooms, which is over next to the baseball fields, that's $2,500. He's requesting a replacement vehicle to replace a 2005 Jeep Liberty. And there again, Amy took those, it was a $35,000 request, and she took out $22,796 because the amount that we would finance would be $12,204. They've requested a side-by-side UTV for McDonough Park for $16,500 and a Turf Tiger zero-turn mower for $16,500. Moving down to 541, which is recreation. So that would be a canopy with poles for the tennis and pickleball courts for $7,500. Additional benches at various locations at the playgrounds for $10,000. An athletic field cover, 120 foot by 120 for $3,500. New concession stand equipment. These would be replacements for some of the equipment that they use to prepare the food. They've requested a UTV for the ball fields for $12,000. Moving on to streets. The street paving projects is in the budget for $850,000. A replacement 10-ton dump truck with a spreader and plow is $170,000, but that was reduced again down to $59,000 due to financing. It removed $110,672 out of the budget. The next item is a 2-ton dump truck with a spreader and plow for $120,000. That would be reduced down to $41,880, removing $78,120 from the budget. Craig, you're here. In line item 59, it says see description below for $80,000. I don't see anything. Conflict monitors are only $6,000.
No, at the very bottom, there's 3 asterisks. It says the Public Works Director is requested to move the funds appropriated in the 21-22 budget for trucks to the 22-23 budget when state contracts are available. That's what that is.
We didn't get purchased this year because of state bid, and I talked to the dealers, and they don't have.
There it is. Thank you. I see the asterisks. Okay. All right. So the carryover, then the $80,000 is a carryover. And again, she has reduced that down to $27,912 because of the financing on those. And the last item is the conflict monitors and controllers, which is $6,000. Craig, would you give us I know you did it during your presentation, but conflict monitors are used for?
Your traffic signals, stoplights, controls, patterns, lane shifts.
So this morning, we had a department head meeting, and we went through the process again of asking every department head to go through his line items and pick out what items can be removed. So the sheet that you have there is the sheet that Mr. Black turned in from the Parks Department. He's reduced his budget. He's reduced his budget by $416,100. And so the $942,858 that we were out of balance has been reduced significantly.
Do you have others from the other department heads also, or is this the only one?
That is it.
Okay.
Okay. So now it's down to $526,758. And when in my discussions with the other department heads, there honestly isn't a lot of things that can be cut out of this budget. When you look at the police cruisers, instead of having 3, we can cut that down to 2. If we hire another police officer at some point, or add an extra police officer, I should say, then we would need to get a police cruiser, but that would be something in the future, so we could deal with that at a later date. Chief Scholl has indicated that the ramp at the fire department could be reduced down to 50,000 instead of 80,000. That would eliminate the heated concrete portion of that, which I really would like to see left in, simply because if we have an emergency and we've got snow, the heated sidewalk will allow us to get the trucks in and out without a lot of manpower cleaning. So depending on where we end up, if we can find that $30,000, and Chief Scholl would like to have it, but he will give that up if he has to. Under data processing, the drone for the police and fire departments, the $40,000, that item can be removed from the budget. Going down to the Parks Department, you have the list that Steve has indicated that he can take out of his budget, which would reduce all of those line items down to $416,000. There's a couple items in here that, you kind of hate to keep cutting the Parks Department, but when you look at the capital outlay, they're requesting, 2 side-by-sides and a new vehicle. The Turf Tiger mower, you pretty much have to replace that because they mow so much grass that they simply wear those things out. But the side-by-sides, those are things that are wants, they are not needs. And the Jeep Liberty, we've got other vehicles in the city that we could perhaps replace that. But there again, the calculated finance amount on that's about $12,000. So it's not a significant amount, but that is an additional area right there that could be, done. On the budget itself, the swimming pool does not have any expenses on it. As far as the $1.7 million that was calculated in Steve's presentation, that is not part of the amount of money that we're out of balance. I was going to do this later in the meeting, but I'll do it now. Mrs. Elam has agreed to spearhead a committee to work out a plan to redesign, redevelop, form a plan for the replacement of the pool. And so if you have any comments you'd like to make now, or we can save them until later, I don't know, what do you want to do?
Yeah, no, we're going to meet soon, and the intent is that we're going to try to make a determination soon about what to do for the 2022 season, and then we'll meet again and start working on how to move forward from there. But I've got Chuck Knopfsinger, Kim Williams, Tim Roberts, and Chris Mancuso have agreed to be a part of that. We're also going to be working with the park board on that.
Okay, so there's it, and we'll look to the committee to give us a report back from fairly soon, at least a direction. And then whatever help you need, we'll be glad to work with you on that.
Okay.
Okay. But at any rate, that's where we are with the numbers that I have. There again, I have to say I apologize. If anyone has any suggestions now of things that I can pass on, it's my hope that at the next council meeting that we have a balanced budget that we can bring in, and then we can start dissecting it to figure out what needs to be added or subtracted to put back things in. So, we're still approximately $500,000 out of balance.
Is Mr. Schwindeman coming next week?
Mr. Schwindeman came this week, Tuesday,
Okay.
but he's got 6 companies still to respond. So as soon as we get those numbers, then we will have a presentation. He will come and do that for us.
And that will adjust our numbers again. We'll get it balanced, then he'll come, it'll be out of balance again, and we'll have to.
And there again, that's another factor that has to be considered in. Amy has a number plugged in on the second sheet where you see the group expense, group insurance. She's estimated it to be $1,147,000. So depending on how that number changes is where the difference will be. You see it, line item number 05,
I need to go back down to that.
okay? But that's the number that's plugged in there. And the second one is on the revenue side, line item number 299, no, I'm sorry, 30101, ad valorem taxes. That 1715, 1,715,201. That number right there is an approximation because we wait for the assessor to give us the valuations for the property. And so that number right there will change as well.
And we'll have that before the.
We will have
budget.
that. Yep.
I have a question on the revenue side. I have a couple questions on the revenue side. Line item 322, contributions from other funds. It says in the 21-22 budget, it was $409,000. And then we don't anticipate any contributions in this budget. Can you tell me what those contributions are?
I cannot.
Okay, because that's like $400,000 that we
Correct.
don't know. Okay.
If you would have asked me ahead of time, I would have had that number because I had a long conversation with Amy today. But
Well, I think we should have those numbers. It's very
You will.
frustrating. We don't have the numbers regarding the payroll and then this. And then, so here's my other question. Line 317, sale of fixed assets. That we're showing zero in that. And I know we've been selling fixed assets. We've had the gov deals, and I think you reported maybe last week or something that was going really well. We had generated, I don't know, close to $160,000. And so I don't know where that's reflected on the revenue side of this budget.
it's not. And the reason for that is that's something that revenues are something that you can count on. We have no idea if we're going to sell anything next year.
I understand that. But, you know, I go back and look at the short budget reports and I don't see them there either. So, you see what I'm saying?
It'll be reflected in the carryover. But I mean, honestly, we don't know until we have vehicles that are taken out of service or if we have equipment that's no longer usable. As of right now, I don't believe we have any items for sale right now. But at any rate, those items right there, when we sell them, it will be reflected in the carryover because it's just an addition to the bottom line.
Sure. Well, the 409 is the real curious thing to me. That's what I'm trying to figure out, because that's quite a significant number to not have our hands on. But another question about this, or a comment I should say, is I'm pleased to see that the 1% sales tax has been reflected upward at $575,000. Because we've had the $3,425,000 as our estimate according to this budget, for the last three budgets. So, and I do follow that online, and you know, we have been doing really well, and our 1% sales tax is up considerably. So I can appreciate that that's been changed this time. And also with the B&O tax, the same thing. We have an increase of $50,000. So that's $625,000 of revenue that we weren't even contemplating in the last budget.
Tom?
Shouldn't our 1% sales tax and B&O tax go up because of inflation?
Well, obviously, if you sell an item for $20 that last year you paid 10, yes, okay, and so we're very fortunate, we're very blessed that our business community continues to grow. I know the other day when Jill came in from the chamber, there are 10 new businesses right now that we're getting ready to do ribbon cuttings for. All right, so it seems like every time we lose a business, we gain one right back. And so the point that Kim made about the 1% sales tax, you know, for a long time, we were under $1 million a quarter. It has just recently eked itself up to $1 million a quarter. So the $4 million that's projected in there is a fairly accurate number. Okay, but you know,
It could go a little bit higher.
we hope so.
do you think?
She's pretty conservative when she gives these estimates because she always wants to put a little extra in there. But, honestly, it scares me to death because with the situation it's in the world, the supply chain is absolutely critical. Craig and I had this conversation the other day, and Kim was there also, and Tommy were there too, for that matter, at the utility board. Just one simple item that we buy for the maintenance of the valves, the valve boxes that every person has in their front yard, that plastic circle that has your water meter in it. I'm sorry, Craig, you're gonna have to help me with the numbers again. The old price was $236.
Yeah, it's like 285 last year, and this year's like 690.
Really? Ooh.
And I mean, we got 4,500 of those things stuck around town, and it's like, that's a simple item. But even worse than that, the availability of getting them is out 10, 12, 14 weeks. And so that's what scares me about this whole thing. You have no idea, one, with all the turmoil that's going on and with the Russia and the Ukraine situation and with the supply. And I mean, we live in such a global economy now that any ripple affects us. And so, myself personally, I hope we're as conservative as we possibly be in case there's a downturn so that we're recovered. These numbers right here are pretty solid numbers when you start doing that based on what we've gotten in the last couple years.
One other question. I hear people talking about getting a letter from the assessor and the property values are going up. So would that be another optimistic trend?
No.
Not for the payer, but
Yeah.
for the receiver.
No, and I'm not sure how frequently and what the percentage is, but I know that state code requires the auditor or the assessor, excuse me, that every year there has to be like 10% or whatever the percentage of all of the homes be reappraised. And so you're going to get a ratchet up every year in some fashion.
But we'll get a ratchet up too.
We do, but it's not a significant amount. And that's why when Amy comes in and she gives us this number, that's a number that's locked in by the assessor for this year because, they're always a year behind. So whatever that number is what number we will get. And now, next year, the year after that, if there's an increase, which I think there will be, then that number should go up. All right?
I have another comment about the 1% sales tax. I think Tom brought up a great point about inflation, because that's absolutely true. But just to give a little history on this, because I do follow this number pretty regularly, one of the things happened in the last couple years was that the Wayfair decision where they're actually collecting that 1% sales tax on internet sales. So if you go on Amazon, you're a resident of Vienna, that 1%, Amazon will collect it and send it back to the municipality. So, well, yes, inflation has a big impact, but that 1% sales tax has been going up steadily since the Wayfair decision settled in, and we're now getting that money.
Okay. All right. So, I have to tell you all, there's no one more sorry about not being here this evening than Amy, but I thought about canceling the meeting simply because the numbers are so incomplete. But, the reality of it is we come in, I tell you what we know, and then you have an opportunity to think about this because in the very near future, like next Thursday, we're going to have to start putting a pencil to this. All right. And, it's just, unfortunately, life gets in the way sometimes, and she's not available.
I have some kind of line-by-line comments and questions. Can I go through some of that?
This would be your opportunity.
And then and I know that because she's not here, you may not know, and so that's fine, and we'll just cover it. But, so for data processing, when I was comparing what we've been provided for today's meeting with the original presentation, why did the 21-22 budget change? I would think that would have stayed the same, but it went from, the original number was $101,200, and then in what we have now, it changed to $89,035. The only thing I could think of was maybe because the previous IT person left, maybe that changed it, but still, it would have been the budget. That would have been what was budgeted, we're not talking about actual, so you don't know?
No clue.
Okay, all right, I'll ask Amy. Okay, in 440, which is City Hall, I wanted to ask, let's see, line 15 and 16, that's the maintenance and grounds, that went up from when, again, this is from when it was presented to us to now the current numbers that we have. The two of those increased by a total of 13,000 total between the two of them.
Where are you?
Line 15 and 16, it's maintenance, building grounds, and maintenance equipment.
440 City Hall. Line 15 is maintenance, building and grounds.
Yeah.
So it went down from 80,000 to 25? What are you looking at?
Well, what was originally presented, when you added those two lines together, like now 25 and 6 is 31. Originally, it was that 18,000? So I just wanted to know, between the time it was presented and now, what came up with City Hall that we need to add 13,000 to those two lines?
Okay, I'm sorry. I have no idea where you're at. I'm looking right at it.
Yeah, so, okay, let me.
What line number? What line?
15 and 16.
I got it.
Okay.
Maintenance, building and
yeah,
grounds, and
15
maintenance
says,
equipment.
yeah, 15 says 25,000, 16 says 6,000. And give me just a second. See, that was City Hall, so that would have been, what, the second time we presented? Let me go to it real quick. Hold on. City Hall. Just a second. I have all these different things pulled up. Okay, city office manager.
Slide over here. There's 15 right there. Maintenance, building and grounds. It went from 80 to 25, and equipment went from 3 up to 6. Okay? I don't see
Right.
13 anywhere. I don't
There is not a 13. The 13 is what the difference from the last time. So hold on, I'm still scrolling. City treasurer, city council, city auditor. Give me a second. Purchasing, recycling, city hall. Okay. Previously, when it was presented on line 15 and 16, it said for 15,000 was requested. And in line 16, 3,000 was requested. So it was 15 and 3, and currently it's 25 and 6.
So you're saying the time it was reflected till this document come out?
So whenever Amy presented, I think Amy was the one that presented City Hall, that was on the 10th. She presented asking for 15,000 for maintenance, building and grounds, and 3,000 for maintenance equipment. And now it's saying 25,000 and 6,000.
I have no idea.
Which is the difference of the 13,000.
That's 13, because 10 was added and 3 was added.
Yes, I have no idea.
Okay, so we'll find out about
I know
that.
I know the reason why it went down. The $80,000 that was in the budget for last year was to paint the building and do all the repairs. But that will be completed before the budget year is over. So that's why it dropped back to the 25.
Right, yeah, I know it's significantly less than the 80, but I still wanted to check on that.
That's because of this building's got an odd coating on the outside of it, and it has to be repaired or it leaks. So we've got to do that work.
Okay, clarify for me if you can, in 446, that's the animal warden.
Yes.
I don't remember why we fund that, because we don't have an animal warden.
It's the contribution to the Humane Society.
That is. Okay, so that's the 32, then hold on. Okay, so we just rounded it up because they requested 31,132.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so that is that. All right. The numbers that we have currently, so all of the phone research that was being done for Segra, that's all been fixed and,
No, not at all.
okay.
We have engaged a consultant to do the complete overview of that system, but no, it is
Okay.
not done.
Okay, and then my follow-up on that is, I noticed that for the fire department, there is no phone charge. Everybody else has a telephone charge, but the fire department pays 0 for phone. That's what is in there. It's number 500. 500 is right here. And it says telephone 0. And I didn't know why the fire department doesn't pay anything for phone.
Maybe they pay for their own.
I just thought it was curious. I mean, everybody else is paying something. Senior center, the police department, city hall.
What number are you in?
Fire department, it's 500, line 11.
Gotcha. Telephone one.
I have a note in my notes here that the finance director will determine this.
Okay.
So I wonder if he was waiting on her to give him a number.
I think that's probably the case.
That was my note when they presented.
I think a lot of them were kind of saying that they were waiting on that still, like they put a number in, but it will probably change, but still it was just still 0. So, but I didn't know if these were the right numbers. And if they were, then I was gonna say, why is it 0? So maybe when we get the right numbers, will the fire department be, because they've been budgeted previously.
Well, we've had an issue with the fire department since we had the conversion to Segra, all right? And the way the phone bill is split up, every department pays a share of it, all right? And so if we have a bill for $3,000, then a lot of it's dependent on usage and what have you, because of how many different items go into, like parks, and police department obviously has a lot. But we've had an issue with a situation in the conference room at the fire station. All right, we have to have a phone in that conference room, and but I mean that number will be filled in because they definitely have telephones.
Okay. All right. While we're on fire department, line 19. So when Chief Scholl presented, line 19, there was 0 there. And now it's 110,000. That's for rents, building, equipment. I couldn't remember
we
what the
have
110 was for.
We have 2 fire trucks that we are making payments on.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
And so that's the balance that's out there. And if you recall, when Chief was here, he made record that we have to buy a fire truck in 2 years, but we should be paid down with these by then. All right. And so.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I'm going to keep going. Let's see here. On 540, well, let me see. No, sorry. Let me go down to, okay, 541. I think that is, it's, yes, Vienna Recreation. Okay, so for 541 Vienna Recreation, so for salaries and wages, 5,400 was requested as an increase. But it's currently 85,860, which is $33,260 more. And I don't know, I couldn't connect the dots between the 5,400 requested and the 33,260.
I don't have an answer for that one. There was a big explanation about all these tournaments and all the things that are going to be run for, the baseball teams this summer.
Yeah.
And so there was additional umpires and there were additional, concession stand workers, but there was an offset that was supposed to be generated by the gate and all that for, team entries and what have you. So I'm not sure if that's the way it's put in here to say, here's what it's going to cost. And then somewhere else, under the revenue side, there was an increase there to indicate how much money we were going to actually net out from the other side of it. So,
Okay, because in his note, I'm scrolling up to find his note here on, see, that says capital requests, highlights. Okay. All right, so it said, for Recreation Department, his payroll request, requesting increased amount of gross wages by $5,400 to cover additional umpires, concession workers, and admission gate workers because of the additional number of tournaments being scheduled for the 2022 summer season. So you're right on that. But again, he was requesting $5,400, and then, oh, he has so many pages here. All right, let me scroll. I said where's it at? Today's what we're looking at. Last year's budget was 52.6. This year's budget now for salaries and wages was 85,860. So I wondered, and but we didn't, none of these salaries and wage numbers have the $1 or $2 an hour raise, correct? The longevity is in
They
here?
would never get it.
Well, no, so, but all the numbers in the current worksheet that we're looking at, none of that has the $1 or $2 an hour raise. Okay. So it would have the longevity, but still.
No
it doesn't
longevity.
Okay, it doesn't have longevity either. So now I'm even more confused as to why it's $33,260 more when only $5,400 was requested. You don't know? Okay. Okay, so we'll ask Amy on that one. Okay, so I think, let me flip over to this page you said about the pool. So if the pool is closed in 2022, there is zero expense, or is there something that we still need to do? Is there like a $5,000 expense to, I don't know, do something to it, or is there any kind of expense for the pool if it is
The items
closed?
that are listed there are maintenance items, things that we would deal with, utilities and what have you. My guess is that there would be some insurance costs because the structure's still going to be there.
Okay,
All right.
so it's just going to be something minimal.
I mean,
Okay.
It's going to be more than minimal, because if you think about the budget, the pool's going to open in June. The new budget year doesn't start until July 1st. So you're going to have employee cost. I think that he anticipated that budget would be reduced by like $41,000.
Yeah, that's what it says, yeah. Okay. All right, go down to between 547 and 579. That is festivals, and 79 is beautification. All right. For beautification, on line, whatever, down here, 66, or 68, sorry, it's 25,000 to the Friends of Vienna. Is that supposed to be the 25,000 for the Freedom Fest? And if so, I would think it shouldn't be under beautification. It should be under festivals. But then, let's see, outside agencies. No, but he did request 25,000 though, but that was for the fest, right? The Freedom Fest?
Yes.
And so why does that appear under beautification and not festivals?
I believe that that's because, the Friends of Vienna, it had to be put somewhere. But I think that, and what's going to end up happening is they're going to be considered an outside agency and funded through that.
I think they have to be considered an outside agency. They're a nonprofit. They're a separate department.
Yeah.
So they'll end up having their own number, like the Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
It'll be whatever. It'll be like Chamber of Commerce is 704, so they might be 705. So accounting wise, we need to do that.
The $5,000 that's been in that line item forever for festivals is simply because, we never used it. This year it's going to be used because the festivals go, but, the Friends of Vienna would be an outside agency.
Yeah, I can't tell you about the budgeting part of it. I can just tell you Friends of Vienna is a 501(c)(3). They're an entity that is a separate legal entity that is independent of the city of Vienna. How Amy or whomever puts it in the budget, that's a question I can't.
Okay, yeah, I just, I'd like to get clarification on that.
I assume because they're a 501(c), that they would be treated the same as any other outside.
Okay.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I do have a question about this particular line item. If you're intending on to move to something else, I'd rather.
Go ahead.
Okay. So that brings up a good question about that. He presented as, the 501(c)(3) outside agency, talked about the $25,000. And then when we were here last week, it was said that we would do a budget revision for this year to front load that festival. And then we would put it in our budget, $25,000 again for next year. So now we're at $50,000? I mean, I need some clarification on that, because it's really, $25,000 is one thing, $50,000 is another thing.
It's pretty simple, okay? Jack, would you join us for just a moment? Okay, so it's very simple. There's a $25,000 request in the budget for 22-23
Correct.
from the Friends of Vienna.
Correct, that's what, yes.
And then you made a presentation about the Freedom Festival, that you're looking for a contribution of $25,000 for the Freedom Festival this year.
Yes,
So the $25,000 that you've requested would have to be done as a budget revision so that you can get paid before your event to take care of the things that you have.
right.
Now, the $25,000 that's in this particular budget that we're discussing is your request for next year, not this year.
Correct.
Okay?
Because
So,
it's going to be an ongoing festival, so I had to present it this year for the following year.
Okay, so that's your intention to do this as an ongoing festival. So are we going to be talking about $25,000 every year?
I'll have to come back and after the next festival, come back the next year at budget time to see where we're at on contributions that we raise on our end. See, I mean, I feel the city should have some input into it, just like Parkersburg has an input into homecoming. And it's a festival that I would look to grow into the city even further beyond, what it's going to be the first year. So
Okay, Jack. So then, just for my clarification, for beautification, when you did your presentation and stuff, are you asking for 25,000 for beautification, or is it 25,000 for the festival? And if so, then are you asking for anything for beautification? Because even previously we've had $5,000. So do you still want the 5,000 for beautification? Plus then we're doing 25 for the festival?
that's what, that was in there to come through, the 5,000 initially. And then we added the 25 in coming through for the festival because we started getting closer, so.
Okay, so we'll need to fix that, Randy, because if it's left, if Friends of Vienna is left on beautification, that would actually need to say 30, correct? Because it would be 5 for beautification and then 25 for the festival?
Which,
Yeah.
I'd have to ask Amy on that.
I feel like it is, and even so, it will help once you guys have your own line item, or accounting number.
I'll tell you one of the reasons I think the amount's going to be higher for this year in the request, if you're looking at that 25 plus 5, and yes, it could be looked at that way. We have applied to fairs and festivals for money, and we've already talked with them. Delegate Connolly, Vern and Chris are working on it. Vernon was talked to today. We requested $8,000 there. It seems pretty positive, but again, that money's not going to come until next year, so it's not available for this year.
Yeah.
So that may put less of a stress on what we'd be even asking for next year.
Yeah.
But hopefully the festivals grow so much that we actually come back and ask for more because it becomes bigger, I mean.
And I'm okay with the 25 each time. I really am. I'm just trying to make sure I understand, okay, beautification, we're asking for 25,000 that's going to go to Friends of Vienna, but then that leaves beautification with the 0 that they normally have. They normally get 5,000. So that's where I was wanting to.
Normally the last 2 years with the startup of Friends,
Right.
we'd requested the 5 separately and brought that over. That was used for some of the projects just to get us started up. I would say the 5 would probably be used in some of the stuff for the baskets or for some of the stuff in the beautification end of everything within the city. But because I anticipate more income to where I'd only need the 25.
So help me with this, because this is prior to me. Was beautification a thing? Yeah, beautification was around before Friends of Vienna.
Correct.
Oh, I see, because this is contributions to you guys, and that's why that
Right.
was put in there.
Right.
Okay, so the beautification, Okay, hold on. So because beautification, still like the materials and supplies, we're still saying, 90,500 for materials and supplies. But the Friends of Vienna part, it's a contribution. And instead of asking for 5, you're asking for 25. I
Right.
just had that conversation in my head out loud, and I think I've got it.
Okay, all right.
Sorry.
Jack wears too many
You
hats.
are a contribution, and that clarified that for me. I
Well, thanks
just
for
needed
calling me a
to.
contribution.
I'm glad you got to go on that journey with me, Jack. Thanks for participating.
Don't go, because
Okay.
I just want to make sure I'm clear. So, we would contemplate for this budget year, giving you $25,000 through a budget revision, and then still see this next year, $25,000.
Yes.
That's really what we're saying.
Yes.
So, within a few months, we're talking about $50,000.
Yes.
Okay. My other thing is that I'm struggling to see then, the festival budget, that's $5,000. I don't know why that just doesn't move in if, council wants to go ahead and, I think the Freedom Festival sounds really awesome. I remember that in the 90s when that happened, and I would like to see that grow, but it's still, trying to figure out where the money's coming from.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, why wouldn't we just
Yeah.
go ahead and put the 25 in there? Is that what you're saying?
Well, to
Or
take
no?
the $5,000 out of festivals and put it in, because that's the
To
festival.
them, yeah.
So, but just so everybody is aware, because I think it's a discussion to say here, because as soon as this budget's over, I'm sure we're gonna, you have people that you have to reserve and pay for and so on and so
I've got
forth.
expenses coming right
Right,
now.
right now, you're gonna want
Yeah.
that 25. Totally
Yeah.
get that. But then if we pass the budget with the 25 in it, come July 1st, that 25 is then available to Friends of Vienna. So that's $50,000 within a span of a few months. That's something to really consider.
Okay, you want to continue so we can get through your list?
Yes.
All right.
Okay, so 596 is MOV Work Camp. They didn't do a presentation.
They're no longer in operation.
Okay, so we're not giving them $3,000?
That is correct.
Okay, so can we make a note that we need to take that out?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. For 912, that is, sorry, scrolling. Civic promotions. There were several changes there from the original presentation or the original numbers that we'd gotten. Even though we don't have a decision on the pool yet, I think that in line 19 and line 23, I would anticipate possibly even needing to, I would like to restore them at least to their original numbers of 38,830 in line 19 and 9,900 in line 23. But I'd like to also say that I would be potentially interested in increasing those even if we don't have the pool, because we may need to use that to provide additional entertainment or activities for kids and families and that kind of stuff during the day, in addition to the evening programming that we've already got planned. So just as a kind of heads up from me, I may want to talk about increasing those beyond those two numbers.
Okay.
On line 20, why was remind me, I feel like you might have said something about this, the advertising and legal, why was that one brought down again? It was originally 15, because I feel like if we're doing additional activities, we may need additional advertising.
The usage was almost nothing.
Okay.
I mean, there was no point leaving it there because, I mean, we spent, I don't have the other set of numbers with me, but I mean, I did go back historically and look, and it was, very small.
I have the numbers, and the thing of it is, you have to remember, a lot of this stuff was impacted in the last 2 years because of COVID.
Right.
Okay? And so I share the same feeling as you do. If we're going to look at, we're not going to have that pool, then I want to make sure that we're not cutting back on these things, the Vienna Fun family weekends and so on, all the things that we've traditionally done, because that's there's going to be less to do. And I spoke to the person Linda Kern, who prepared these numbers, and it was like there was a 6% increase, just in, I think it's line 19, which was, hang on, that had to do with, the movies, the sound and the DJ and all that stuff, the foam machine, all the things that we've traditionally done. Those costs, she's reached out to all those people, and those costs have gone up about 6%. So I would like to see that be put back into the budget.
Okay, I already changed the numbers.
Okay, all right, good. So then sorry, I'm looking for the comparison from the last time. Sorry, that's the senior center. This is civic promotions. Here we go. All right, the line 30, I know it's just $100 and whatever dollars, but still, I know that calculations are done to figure out, exactly what things are going to be needed. That one was the one for SnowBiz for 6 events at $425 per event, and it was reduced down to $2,400, which to me kind of doesn't make sense, because if we're going to reduce it, we need to reduce it by 425, so that we're only doing 5 events. But if we want to leave it at $2,550, then we can still do the 6 events. That $150 reduction just didn't make sense to me, because it's not in a $425 increment. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It never has been.
What never has been?
Look at the numbers back. It's never been in anything but an even number. But what do you want it to be?
Not in the original packet. It was $2,550.
What do you want it to be?
$2,550.
$2,550.
If that's 425 times 6,
Yeah, $2,550.
425 times 6 is 25.
there we go. Let's do
You
that.
believe him? That was awfully quick for.
For a lawyer.
He sold it. He sold it. It
Never
looked like he
doubted.
had it. He knew what it was.
All right, what
Immediately.
else?
All right.
Now I'm going to check myself.
Okay. I'm sorry. Let me go back to 422. I'm almost done, and then everybody else can talk.
422?
Yes, I'm going to go back to that real quick just to make sure I've covered that, because I can't remember if I answered it for myself. Oh, I just wanted to kind of bring to our attention that this is, again, of course, the 22-23 year at $49,215. That does not include the pay request or the salary increase. But the difference between 2018-19 and the one we're working on now is $11,962. So there's been an $11,962 increase in that salary just in the past 4 years.
Wait a minute, where are you at?
Line 3 on 422 for personnel. Yeah, sorry, it's towards the beginning. Just keep scrolling. I think it's page 14 if you're on the
I'm getting close.
14 out of 49. So I just wanted to kind of bring that as some perspective as we're talking about salary increases for department heads. That's been a significant increase just over the past 4 years. I'm not particularly in favor of that particular increase this year. I know we aren't necessarily getting in the weeds of.
422, line item number 3.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I have no idea. We'll have to run that backwards.
Yeah. So, I mean, 49,215 minus 37,253 is whatever I said. $11,962. So, to me, that's a significant increase in somebody's salary over a 4-year period, and so I just think we should consider that when we're
Okay,
looking at.
all right. I'll get an answer for that. I don't know.
Are you finished?
Yes, for now.
For now.
Okay, so who's next?
I have one, just real quick.
All right.
Just to kind of maybe upgrade me. Police Department, 455.
Hang on.
455.
You might be able to answer this without looking at it, Randy.
All right, I'll
It's
try.
a simple question.
All right.
455, line 59, the Milo upgrade, is that an ongoing, and I know we've got to have that, and I'm all for it, and we got to have it, but is that a periodic thing, or is that a recurring cost, or do we know?
I don't think that we've put any money in that system since it was donated to us. We received that as a donation several years ago. And so I know it's an upgrade to do better training for the officers and what have you, but I don't believe it's an ongoing thing. This may be an upgrade to the software, but I like I say, I don't know that we've put any money in this thing ever. So
Okay.
that's
All right.
just a training request.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
But
you.
Chief Piper would be able to tell you exactly what's
Sure,
been done.
understand.
All right?
Thank you.
Kim?
Okay. 905, Senior Center.
Okay, hold on, let's scroll down.
I have to scroll too to get to it.
905.
I printed it out, but, oh my gosh.
Okay?
Okay. There was a request for an additional, and it was taken out, an additional, basically $2,000 in line item 14, travel. And once again, it's an anticipated increase in the cost of bus trips, the movie nights that the seniors do. I think those costs have been looked at by the person who prepared this. I'd hate to see us cut our seniors out of, a bus trip or a movie night because of this $2,000. I'd really like to see that put back in.
So I'm not sure the numbers that you said are correct. It was 12,100, so it's a $2,000 difference. It's not 14.
No, if I misspoke, I meant to say
14,100.
2,000.
Okay, all right.
$700 less than it was 2 years ago.
Yes. So you,
Right, so what was originally requested was 14,100, and then, what was presented was 12,100. So, and that was for, like I said, bus trips, music nights, that kind of thing, or movie nights, not music nights.
okay?
Maybe they do that too, I don't know. Also, this is a curiosity because there was this $4,000 request for auto maintenance, which is line 17. And if I remember last year, there was a request for a vehicle for this department.
Oh, yeah.
And then a vehicle was pulled out of the fleet, okay? And then that's how that was resolved. But I understand that vehicle is not in very good shape, and there isn't a lot of anticipated maintenance on that vehicle. So I don't know that taking that $4,000 out of there is necessarily going to work. But another thing I had a question about was line 30, contract services. I think what was originally requested was $12,000 for that line, and what was presented was $10,000. And so the $2,000 difference was for COVID cleaning. And I mean, I don't, if we still need to do that COVID cleaning, I want to make sure that that's still being done at the senior center, unless there's a reason not to do that. But of all people that I think are most vulnerable as our seniors, I'd hate to take that out of there. I'd request that go back.
I'll check on that because my recollection is that COVID had nothing to do with that line item, but if I'm wrong, I'll let you know.
Sure, I appreciate
'Cause I
that.
don't remember that, okay?
Absolutely.
Yes,
I appreciate
I'll check that.
Which then brings me to there is an assistant for that. And it was a request of a $2,000, I'm sorry, a $2 increase per hour for a part-time worker, 29 hours a week. This employee does not get health insurance, does not get retirement, does not, I know that last year this position became available because in the past, what was happening at the senior center where, the seniors, they had a board, they were opening the senior center and closing the senior center, but that's not really what should happen, okay? We need to be able to operate our own senior center and not ask or require the seniors to do that. That's their center. They need to come and enjoy the center. And so the center still has to function, and we still need that in person there. And I believe that person is doing a good job. And I would request that wage, that salary increase of $2 per hour get put back in there. Once again, we talked about all these wages last time, okay? What an increase would be. If we just do the 35-cent increase on all the employees, the longevity that we're required to do, every single employee in the city, except for one, somebody who works in public works, would be making $13 an hour or more. The person in public works would, after the 35-cent longevity, will be at $12.89. I think that it's not unreasonable to bring the senior center employee up to that $13 with everybody else. We may end up doing more than the 35 cents. That's council's gonna have to decide. And if we do, then that's even a larger wage disparity. Good employees are hard to come by these days.
Is the part-time worker subject to the longevity raise?
No.
Okay,
Part-time employees are not in that same structure.
okay.
Okay? But that part-time employee was put in there because of the hours. It's just a simple thing that, the senior center is only open from 10 to 3, and then on Friday evenings, it's open for game night and what have you. So she works less than 30 hours a week, all right? And so, it is a part-time position. That's what it was created for. But there again, that's not my decision. All right? If you all want to add that position to whatever the pay raise is, then that's certainly up to majority decision, whatever.
Would that, as we talked earlier when this conversation started about how to handle those, would that need to be done on an individual thing, like as we contemplate raises for department heads beyond any raise that we might give globally to all the employees?
Yes,
Okay.
because it's not an across-the-board raise for department heads. Okay?
Okay.
All right?
So, I had some other concerns, primarily with IT. I have concerns about, obviously, the drone, but the cameras. Last budget, we budgeted $50,000 for cameras, and then now there's a request again for cameras, and I don't even know that all the cameras are even working. I also have concerns about the $25,000 for a computer upgrades for, it just seems like a lot of computers all at one time, and I know we need to get on a better rotation of computers, and that's very important. But those are two items I'd really like to take a better look at.
Now, is that 25,000, was that the number that we have because he was able to build them for a lot less?
No, we're not going to build computers. No. These are ones you buy out of a box. Okay?
Okay.
Wait a minute. Yes.
Okay, because I appreciated his analogy of why buy a new car if all you need is an oil change and new tires. So that made sense to me when it came to the computers.
No. We don't have a computer lab. We don't have a repair shop. We don't have any of that stuff. Okay? We're not going to go into the business of building computers. Okay? We would end up with a lot of spare parts, and then if somebody left, then we would have all of the stuff that no one can use. All right? We need to stick with what we have now because, we usually typically buy one piece of equipment, one particular brand at the part, we can interchange things with them, but we are not going to go into the business of building computers.
Okay, so then that
That would not be a
25,000
practical
is,
solution for the city.
then remind me how many computers that covers, that 25,000, do we know that?
I don't. But you have to realize now there's a lot of computers, laptops, iPads that all goes under that same heading. Okay? And there is a rotation like, with what you have, 3, 4 years from now, the technology changes, then that's when we upgrade them. And so there is a rotation schedule that was there that this particular year, these people will get it. The last IT person that we had that, not the last one, the one before that, had a really great schedule, and that system was just like clockwork. Okay? So, I mean, if you can continue that, it works out really well simply because the computer equipment changes. All right? Yes, Russell, answer Mr. Rogers' question.
Well, you'd asked about the Milo. I was asking if you.
No.
You'd asked about the Milo. Chief Piper sent me a text and said it's a one-time cost. It's not reoccurring. And the cities to date hasn't put any money into the Milo system.
Very good.
All right? So there you go.
I had one more question, if I could. This is regarding the flap grant, Spencer's Landing. If we go ahead and keep the $100,000 there, what is anticipated for the $25,000 at Spencer's Landing? And is that just for Spencer's Landing, or does that even extend over
Jim,
to?
what $25,000 are you referring to?
There's $100,000 put in the council line item for $75,000 for the flap grant to do the match, and then the $25,000 just for whatever needs to happen at Spencer's Landing. Just, you understand what I'm saying now?
I did.
Okay. So my question is, what is anticipated out of that $25,000?
At this point, nothing.
Nothing. So that
We're waiting on the flap grant because we're kind of on hold until the state moves.
But so our match on that flap grant would be $75,000. Is that correct?
It's a 20% match on $320,000, so it's about 70. Depends on what it ends up being.
Okay. So we're potentially that $25,000 is probably not, if you don't have a plan for it on Spencer's Landing, that's what I'm trying to get at. There's extra money there.
For that 25,000.
Right. Basically $25,000 worth of extra money. I'm just asking, are we anticipating anything that you're going to need that $25,000 for at Spencer's Landing?
We're going to, where the trees were removed, we're going to backfill that with dirt from the park. It's our dirt, so we're going to take it down there and then we're going to seed and straw it so that we don't have that low spot that continues to gather water. And then once we build the parking area for the kayak launch, that will be the base for where that parking area should go. It's always subject to change. Once we get the park master plan, the final draft, then I think it's time for some decisions to be made about what happens on that side of the recreation area. But the master plan should be done very shortly. So once we get that, then I think we can try to form some more concrete plans for the future.
Okay, so that brings me to another part of that property. There's also $16,000 allocated out of the tree budget for trees to be planted there?
I don't believe that's true.
No, I don't think so.
It was, I just saw it a minute ago. Because he'd said that he wasn't going to move forward on that, though, until there was a plan, I think. It was like in that 90, there was like 4 or 5 different things he was spending out of that 90-some thousand. Let me find it.
Is Jack still here? Jack?
You're not allowed to come in the room. You get one time.
No, quit calling him. Let's see. Oh, that was.
So do you know the question?
Not really.
Okay. It's like a game show. You're going to win a prize. Is there $16,000 in your budget, your tree budget, for planting trees on Spencer's Landing where the trees were removed?
Yeah, that's where we talked about putting a natural hedge down through there, but I said I wasn't going to do it unless everything was to grade and then at the condition, because I didn't want to get into planting trees and digging them up and moving them or doing anything like that. But I was asked to put it into the budget to look at that.
Okay, so it's in the budget, whether or
Yeah.
not you use it or not. It's in the budget, right?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, that was my
Yeah.
question.
Line 41, $90,500. That covers city plantings, Spencer lot at 28th Street, 30th Street Electric, and Truck Beautification, Spencer's Landing.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it now. Thanks, Jack.
All right, you're welcome. Want me to stay up?
I don't have any more questions for you, so.
Okay, so are we done?
I think for now.
I would like to say some of the things that I'm glad that we got feedback from the department heads, and several of the things that I've been looking at were kind of confirmed. The things that I was going to edit or asked to take a look at were already addressed by what they gave. But just looking at the fire with the ramp, part of me thinks I think we ought to go ahead and do the 80, because why redo the ramp and not put the heat in it? I would like to take a look at the numbers with the heat and the ramp and not take that out of it.
Well, I'm sure Chief Scholl would appreciate that, but he's the one that did say it could be cut, so.
Yeah, okay.
If you make him take it, I'm sure he will.
Okay, and
When you consider that ramp over there, and believe me, I've been in this position in the driver's seat of those multi-ton vehicles, there's very little, I mean, when you look at that front ramp, there's not a lot of grade to it, but there is enough of a grade for extremely heavy vehicle that, I mean, I've situations where you barely give it gas and you go sideways. And, that's leaving on a call and returning from a call. And of course, when you're leaving to go on a call, your adrenaline's running and you're going to, probably get on it a little bit more. But that to me is just a sheer safety factor. And there's been incidences where the building's been clipped. And so I agree, Melissa. I think that's, And then just, that's a pretty big area. I mean, just the manpower and the labor of clearing that, the public works guys have always, they've been extremely good, but I mean, good Lord, they have a tremendous amount of coverage to do on their own.
if you could schedule the emergencies, it'd be easy to keep it clear. But you can't schedule the emergencies, so it kind of needs to always be clear. Another thing is for the police, I think the 2 police cars was, I think, in anticipation of hiring 2 new police officers. Is that right? I feel like, because I know he was wanting to hire 2 more entry-level patrolmen. And so if we're still on board with hiring those extra policemen, I think they ought to have a vehicle. So I'm also kind of in the camp of let's keep the police cars at 2 instead of reducing it to 1. So if I have to force him to take 2, he would do that.
No, I'm sorry. I must have misspoke.
Okay.
He asked for 3.
Oh, okay.
He would take 2.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I wasn't going to cut him to 1.
Okay.
Okay? But, I mean, obviously, he'd like to have 3, but the chances of us buying 3 or even getting 3 are really rare.
Okay.
I mean, the cars are not available.
Yeah.
We're waiting for months for trucks now, and
Okay.
it's just, I mean, so, but that's fine.
Okay.
All right?
All right. I'll probably just send Amy a message about some of these things. Is that appropriate to go ahead and touch base with her before the next meeting?
I would say based on the circumstances, you need to send it to me.
Okay. Okay.
All right? I'm not sure when she'll be back.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
But I'll make sure you get an answer.
Okay.
All right? All right. Well, we'll get through this. I'll get answers to your questions, and obviously, whatever your suggestions are depends on how the rest of the group feels, and we'll deal with that. As it is, nothing's set in stone right at this moment. So with that, we'll move on to council comments.
I have a comment. I've been thinking a lot about Spencer's Landing and, the FLAP grant, which is basically, a recreational grant to provide a kayak launch there. And so many residents of Vienna have wanted access to the river for forever. I mean, we're the only municipality in the Middle Ohio Valley that, didn't have access until we were able to acquire that property. And so the fact that we are looking at it in a recreational way, I would like to see it go ahead and, I would like on the next agenda to have a resolution to go ahead and put Spencer's Landing in a park, as a park, as part of the, under the auspices of the Parks Department. Instead of it, because right now it's just kind of in this gray area, and it's going to be a park, so I don't understand why we just don't formalize that.
Mr. Skogstad, if you draft that, please.
Yeah, I need to double check. It may be something simple as a resolution, but I may be an ordinance too, because I have to look to see, there are criminal penalties as well. There are penalties for, violating park hours, and I just need to double check, but I
Sure.
will have something for the next agenda.
Thank you.
Any other council comments? All right, well, meeting adjourned.